Good morning from IIT Gandhinagar. We continue this session with Dr. Prasad Bhide, and today he will tell us more about Sanskrit drama, but more in a contemporary context and in the context of how to enact Sanskrit drama today. And this lecture will involve a degree of demonstration also. Thank you. Dr. Prasad Bhide, please take over.
Namaste. Very good morning to one and all students sitting in this class, and also all those who are attending this session online through Zoom meeting. So my friends, today, you all are not supposed to be students. Instead, you are supposed to play the role of a rasika. I hope you remember the discussion of the concept of rasa that we had yesterday, expression of emotions and rasavishkara. So rasika is a kanajar, rasika who actually enjoys the rasa of the play. So I say that you all are supposed to be rasika today, and let me explain why. Yesterday, we had some discussion about a story that comes at the beginning of Natya Shastra. But it is a very small part of the text. Natya Shastra is much more than such narratives and stories. It talks about, it lays down the canons of how a play should be scripted, what characters should be the part of a play, what should be their peculiarities, how should we build a stage where this play is to be performed, how should we emote various aspects of the play and whatnot. But I thought that instead of doing only discussion of these terms and concepts and making the session dry, theoretical, let us avoid this traditional method of delivering a lecture. Instead, if we can show a demonstration, of course with all limitations and constraints, of some Sanskrit play through which we introduce these terms and ideas of Natya Shastra about the performance of the play, it would be more enjoyable. So in that sense, you are supposed to play the role of a prekshaka, a rasika, a spectator today. And the play that we have chosen for the performance is perhaps one of the most popular plays in Sanskrit literature, the play Abhijnana Shakuntalam. I repeat, the play is Abhijnana Shakuntalam, because the title of this play is popularly, some people call it Shakuntala, some call it Shakuntal, but the exact title of the play is Abhijnana Shakuntalam, written by none other than Mahakavi Kalidas. This is a 7-act long play. It won't be possible to perform the whole play or to show the demonstration. I have decided to perform the first act of the play, and if the time permits, I will give quick references to some characters in the second act and some situations in the third act of the play which are significant from the perspective of Shastra, Natya Shastra. So this play, Abhijnana Shakuntalam, belongs to the genre of drama that is termed as Natakam. Now we know that Nataka is not a general term used to refer to the theatrical performance in Natya Shastra. The term that is used is Rupaka, and there are Dasha Rupakas, that means 10 types of Rupakas, and Natakam is one among them. What is a Nataka? What is the peculiarity of this form of Rupaka? It is stated in Natya Shastra that Nataka should be based on a legendary story, a story from epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. So this popular love story of Shakuntal is not completely the creation of Kalidas. It is also based on a small story from Mahabharata. Mahabharata is actually a collection of such legends that are called Akhyana, legendary stories. So there is one small Akhyana in Mahabharata which is called Shakuntala Upakhyana, a small story of Shakuntala. So there was a king by name Dushyanta, who was a king, who was an emperor, whose capital was Hastinapura, and he was fond of hunting. One day, while hunting, he entered into a penance grove, and there was a hermitage which belonged to sage Kanva. And there, for the first time, he saw Shakuntala, a hermitage girl, a tribal girl. Dushyanta got attracted towards Shakuntala, her beauty, and felt like spending some time with her, spending a night with her. After all, Dushyanta was an emperor. He can wish for anything. And since he has a power, he can fulfill any wish that he has. So Dushyanta approached Shakuntala and forthrightly expressed his wish to her. Now, what do you think? What should be the response of Shakuntala to this, considering that she is a hermitage girl? She may run away from the place with fear, or if she has enough courage, she can criticize, she can curse Dushyanta. But surprisingly, this girl Shakuntala agreed to the proposal of Dushyanta, but with a condition. She said that I agree to this, but I have a condition. If because of this relation, I give birth to a child, and if that child is a boy, then that boy should succeed you as a king. Dushyanta immediately agreed to it. And then they spent a night together. He went away to Hastinapur. Coincidentally, Shakuntala gave birth to a son. She looked after him till he reached the age of 6. And then, at the time of his Upanayana, that means admission ceremony, we can simplify it as admission ceremony, Shakuntala took that boy to the royal court of Dushyanta and reminded Dushyanta about the promise that he had given. Dushyanta obviously denied. He said that he does not even remember her. Shakuntala was angry. And while she was on her way back, suddenly a divine voice came. It is called Akashavani. And that divine voice reminded Dushyanta of the promise that he had given to Shakuntala. Now, what is Dushyanta's reaction? Surprisingly, Dushyanta also reciprocates and says, yes, I do remember. But I did not agree to it. I did not utter it at that time because the people sitting in the royal assembly wouldn't have been convinced by what I say, because after all, Shakuntala was a tribal girl, was a hermitage girl. Now, since it has been said by the divine voice, nobody would doubt about it. And moreover, the relation between me and Shakuntala also gets sanctified. And then the story goes ahead. We are not concerned with the latter part of the story. The point is, the play Abhijnana Shakuntala is based on this story in Mahabharata. Now, after listening to this story, you might ask, is this really a love story? Is this the story which was praised a lot by some German poet? So, my friends, this is not a story of the play Abhijnana Shakuntala. This is a story of Mahabharata. And as I said, a Natakam should be based on a legendary story. Kālidāsa chose this plot, and with his magic touch, this rudimentary, a story in a rudimentary form got converted into a nice play, just like a metal gets converted into gold. And this gold is the play Abhijnana Shakuntalam. Every Sanskrit Nataka begins with a Nandi. This word Nandi is derived from the verbal root Nanda, which means to please. Nandayati iti Nandi. That which pleases the audience is Nandi. So Nandi is a charming melodious song which pleases the audience, which sets the background of the performance. And it is also a prayer offered to the desired deity of the author as per our tradition. The desired deity of Kālidāsa is seen to be Lord Shiva. In this Nandi Shloka of Shakuntala, Kalidas offers a prayer to Lord Shiva, and he describes Lord Shiva in 8 different forms. Pancha Mahabhutas, Prithvi, Aap, Tej, Vayu, Akash, sun, the moon, and a priest who offers offering to the yajna, to the sacrifice. So Kālidāsa describes that Lord Shiva, he states that Lord Shiva takes incarnation in these 8 forms. Now, this kind of view of this deity Shiva belongs to a Shaiva tradition that is from Kashmir. So this Nandi Shloka in particular, it's supportive to the claim that Kalidas might have been a follower of Kashmiri Shaivism. The Nandi, although difficult to comprehend, is very melodious. I am going to recite that Nandi in its traditional tune. So the verse is like this. Ya srushti srashturadya vahati vidhihutam ya havirya hotri yedve kalam vidhatta shruti vishaya guna ya sthita vyapya vishva ya mahus sarva bija prakriti riti ya pranina pranavanta pratyakshabhiprapannastanubhiravatu vastabhirashtabhirishaha. I know, really difficult to comprehend. But now, listen to the song version of the Nandi. Ya srushti srashturadya vahati vidhihutam yaha viryacha hotri yedve kalam vidhatta shruti vishaya guna yasthita vyapya vishvam yamahu sarva bija prakriti ritiyaya pranina pranavanta Yamahu sarva bija prakriti ritiyaya pranina pranavanta pratyakshabhi prapannastanubhiravatu vastabhirashtabhirishaha pratyakshabhi prapannastanubhiravatu vastabhirashtabhirishaha ya srushti srashturadya ya srushti srashturadya Ya srushti srashturadya. Swagatam rasikavarevyaha. I learned this traditional tune from my guru, Pandit Prabhakar Bhatkhande. And I must express my gratitude towards him on this occasion. So Pandit Prabhakar Bhatkhande is an 83-year-old youngster, I should say, who has authored 23 plays in Sanskrit language. 23 plays, modern plays in Sanskrit language. These are not old classics like Shakuntal, Uttar Ramcharitam, and Mrichakati. These are all newly written plays in Sanskrit. They are modern in terms of their form, modern in terms of their themes, and also with respect to treatment. So there is a play which is in the form of Balanatya, a play for children. A play which is in the form of Tamasha. Tamasha is a significant genre of folk art in Maharashtra. Or even a play which is in the form of a street play. What are the themes? So he has handled various social issues. May it be child labor, child marriages, suicidal tendencies among youngsters, and whatnot. I'm mentioning this because, in my opinion, this is a significant contribution to Sanskrit literature, And also, since we are talking about the living traditions of Sanskrit, this can be considered to be an excellent example of how Sanskrit theatre is still alive and has adapted to the modern times. Given an opportunity, I would like to deliver a completely different talk or a small workshop on these modern Sanskrit plays. Anyway, so coming back to Kālidāsa Shakuntal. This Nandi is generally recited by Sutradhara. Sutradhara is a peculiar character in a Sanskrit drama. What does it mean? Sutram dharayati iti Sutradhara. A sutra means a thread. So the one who holds a thread in his hand is Sutradhara. The term can be interpreted in different ways. It is believed that drama has its roots in puppet show. So in a puppet show, there is always, a person who moves the puppets holding a thread in his hand. So the term Sutradhara perhaps refers to that person. But let's look at the term from a larger perspective. The one who holds sutra in his hand also means that one who has control over the play. So Sutradhara perhaps is the producer of the play, the director of the play, the manager of the production, and he also performs a small role at the beginning of every play. So Sutradhara recites this Nandi Shloka, and then he calls his co-actress on stage. She is called Nati, the co-actress. Priye, ita, please come here. Then this co-actress enters the stage. So today, we are going to perform a newly written play by the famous poet Kalidas, which has its title as Abhijnana Shakuntala. Priye, Abhirupa Bhuishtha Parishadiyam. This audience is composed of all distinguished scholars. So true. All scholarly students from IIT, and that too IIT Gandhinagar, which has 23rd rank in NIRF writing. So we have to be very careful today. You must see to it that everything is well set at the backstage. Sir, do not worry at all. Everything is well set. And our performance is going to be the best as always. Let it be the best as always, but we should not say so till the audience agrees to it. Aparitoshad vidusham na sadhu manye prayoga vidnyanam. Prayoga vidnyanam, which means the technique of performance. Although we are well versed with the technique of performance, we should not believe so till we are not able to gratify the audience. Aparitoshad vidusham. This is another peculiarity of the Sanskrit drama that we see. It has longer songs like Nandi, but it also has such melodious verses in between, which are in specific meters and recited in the same meter by the characters. This gives a break to the prose dialogue and gives a break to the audience as well. Priye. So now you should sing a song that will please the audience. According to the canon of Natya Shastra again, Nati, the co-actress, sings a song describing the beauty of autumn. Priye, ati madhuram te geetam. Indeed, your song was melodious and charming. Look, the whole audience got captivated, and even me. I got captivated by your song to such an extent that I have forgotten which play are we supposed to perform today. Friends, isn't it surprising that the Sutradhara, the stage manager himself, has forgotten which play is to be performed today? Don't you remember? He himself has announced at the beginning that they are going to perform Kalidasa's newly written play. Then why does he say that he has forgotten which play are they going to perform? This is because Kālidāsa, the author of this play, has done this with some motive. In order to know that motive, let us remember the title of the play. The title of this play is not merely Shakuntal. It is Abhijnana Shakuntal. This word Abhijnana means to identify something, to recognize something, or to remember something which has been forgotten. Now, Natya Shastra also talks about how should be the title of the play. One commentator, one scholar of poetics, Vishwanatha, in his Sahitya Darpan, in the treatise Sahitya Darpan, has laid down this canon. He says, Namakaryam Natakasya Garbhitartha Prakashanam, which means that the title of the play should throw light on the essence of the story. Now we must look at this title, Abhijnana Shakuntalam, and a small action from this point of view. If the title is Abhijnana Shakuntalam, then it means that this is a story of Shakuntala, and along with that, this act of remembering something which has been forgotten also has some significance in the development of the story. In order to suggest this, the Sutradhara has forgotten the very title of the play, which he will be reminded about by Nati. Now, this is a suggestion, and this suggestion is for Abhijana Bhuishtha Parishad. That means the scholarly audience, the distinguished scholars in the audience. Oh, how did you forget, sir? Didn't you only tell that we are going to perform the Abhijnana Shakuntalam, the newly written play by the famous poet Kalidas? Oh, thank you so much for reminding me. I was carried away by your song, just as Dushyanta is attracted towards that deer. Mugdhosmi Gita Ragena, Harina Prasabham Manah, Esha Rajeva Dushyantaha, Sarangenati Rauhasa. Let's go. And thus, Nati as well as Sutradhara leave the stage. And here ends the first part of the first act of the play. But friends, this is not the first part of the story. This is just an introductory scene which we find at the beginning of every Sanskrit play. This introductory scene is called Prastavana. This word Prastavana is translated into English as prologue. Prastavana is particularly a dialogue between the Sutradhara and Nati, the stage manager and the co-actress, in which Sutradhara informs the audience about the title of the play, about the name of the author, also suggests the theme of the story, just as here Sutradhara suggested it through that small act of forgetting the title of the play, and also connects the audience with the first scene or first visual of the play. Just as here he said that I was carried away by your song, just like Dushyanta, who was attracted towards that deer. So audience comes to know that in next scene, we are going to see Dushyanta who chasing a deer. And here ends the Prastavana scene. The first act, to be specific, the first part of the first act begins, and we find Dushyanta riding over a chariot chasing a deer. He is being assisted by the charioteer. Now, it is interesting to see how a director would stage this scene. Kalidas, as an author, just writes a Ranga Suchana. By the way, Ranga Suchana is an instruction given by the author of the play to the director as well as artist. Ranga Suchana is the way in which the author has visualized that scene. So we find a Ranga Suchana in one sentence that Tata Pravishati Sashara Chapa Hastaha Rathastha Dushyanta. Then enters Dushyanta, who's holding bow and arrow in his hand and riding over a chariot. But how to show this on stage? Is the director supposed to bring a real chariot on stage? Is the actor playing the role of Dushyanta supposed to hold a bow and arrow in his hand? Here, we have to refer to the Abhinaya aspect of drama. I hope you remember the 4 core elements of drama. Bharata talks in detail about Abhinaya and 4 types of Abhinaya. So there is something called Angika Abhinaya, which involves use of body language. That means gestures, postures, and facial expressions. Gestures involve some peculiar hand movements, which are called hastamudra. Posture involves some peculiar leg movements and body postures. So when Dushyanta enters the stage as written or visualized by Kalidas, a real chariot is not supposed to come over the stage. He is not even supposed to hold a real bow and arrow in his hand. Everything has to be symbolic. He has to do the hand movements or hand gestures in such a way that the audience understands that he is holding a bow and arrow in his hand. So for example, as it is stated in Natya Shastra, he has to do the Mushti Mudra of his left hand. And Tripataka, or there are different versions stated by different performers, and another specific mudra of his right hand. This is called Mayura Mudra, because of which, and stand with in a particular posture, because of which audience gets to know that he is King Dushyanta. The charioteer who's accompanying him is supposed to stand in a particular posture, because of which the audience comes to know that he is the one who's riding, who's driving the chariot. The Sanskrit play is supposed to be performed in this symbolic way, with minimal use of drapery and set. The play has to be symbolic as far as possible. Again, this has reference to one important idea. Our idea, Indians' idea of audio-visual performance that we saw yesterday, that it is a rupaka. It is a metaphor. Yesterday, while we talked about metaphor, rupaka, we just, equated the actor with the character. But I mentioned this yesterday that it is not that simple. This metaphor, this rupakatva, exists at different layers, different levels. Now we realize that how complex the idea of rupaka is. This is a reason why I introduced all these major concepts and ideas of Natya in yesterday's session. So Dushyanta enters the stage, he is chasing a deer, he is skilled in hunting. He soon reaches near the deer. And now he is in such a position that he can easily shoot the deer, and he is about to do that. And in the meanwhile, we hear a shout from the backstage. Nahantavyaha, nahantavyaha. Ashramam mrugoyam nahantavyaha. A sage by name Vaikhanasa enters the stage and prohibits King Dushyanta from killing that deer. Nahantavyaha, do not kill the deer. Ashrama mrugaha ayam. This deer belongs to the hermitage. Hermitage, it's supposed to be something like a reserved forest zone today. So hunting was allowed in those times, but there were specific areas in the forest which were demarked and where hunting was not allowed. So that's what Vaikhanasa tells Dushyanta, that ashrama mrugaha ayam na hantavyaha. Rajan, artha tranaya vashastram na prahartum anagasi. O king, your weapons are for the protection of weak and not to attack the helpless. Artha tranaya vashastram na prahartum anagasi. The advice that Vaikhanasa gives to Dushyanta is relevant even today, isn't it? So those who have power, by all means, money power, muscle power, constitutional legitimate power, should know the appropriate use of their power. Dushyanta follows the advice given by Vaikhanasa and keeps down his bow and arrow. Although he is an emperor, he follows the advice of Vaikhanasa. This is also symbolic. This is the respect given to the knowledge power by the political or legitimate power. He alights from his chariot and goes down before sage Vaikhanasa. It was a custom in ancient India that in order to show respect, one should bow down. And just as bowing down or saluting in this way was natural, so natural was to give a blessing, to pass on a good wish in order to reciprocate. Now, if a king bows down, a king salutes, what should be the blessing that an ascetic should give? He can say, Vijayi Bhava, that is victorious. Or he could have said, Ayushman Bhava, that would be long lived. But surprisingly, Vaikhanasa says, Chakravartinam putram apnuhi. Chakravartinam putram apnuhi. That means, may you get a son who would be an emperor. This blessing is considered to be the bija of this play. Bharata, in his Natya Shastra, elaborates about how the plot should be scripted. There, he talks about the 5 elements of a script. They are bija, bindu, pataka, prakari, and phala. So if we consider the plot as a full-grown tree, then bija is the seed that is grown. And abhijana bhuishtha parishat, that means the distinguished audience, can easily get a clue about the phala, that means the final result of the development of the plot after knowing the bija of the play. So I repeat, bija, bindu, pataka, prakari, and karya are the 5 elements of the plot according to Bharata. And we have talked about bija, we have seen an example, and we are also giving a reference to the phala. If time allows, I will also talk about the remaining elements of the plot. Dushyanta happily accepts it because he is still devoid of a son. He does not have an offspring. O king, since you have come here, I request you to pay a visit to the hermitage of our preceptor. His name is Sage Kanva, and our hermitage is on the other side of river Malini. Please come. Yes, Sage Kanva is not present at this time in the hermitage, but his daughter Shakuntala is there to offer appropriate hospitalities. Sage Kanva is not present. Why so? Vaikhanasa informs. He has gone to a pilgrimage called Somatirtha. Shakuntalayaha pratikula daivam sampadaitum shantaitum Somatirtham gataha. He has gone to a place called Somatirtha in order to pacify the ill destiny of Shakuntala. Now, I am quoting this sentence because this is suggestive. It suggests the learned audience that Shakuntala's destiny is not favoring her right now. So something which is not good for her may happen. But at the same time, since her father has gone to pacify the ill destiny, the end result will be good, as it happens with all Sanskrit dramas. Dushyanta decides to pay visit to the hermitage, but before going over there, he puts down the crown that he is wearing. He also removes all the ornaments that he is wearing and keeps down the bow and arrow in the chariot. He talks to himself. Vinita veshena praveshtavyani tapovanani nama. Hermitage is a place where one should enter in a polite disguise. This is not a place to show the power and prosperity, because hermitage is the abode of knowledge power. And knowledge power is always superior to the political power, at least in ancient times. And then Dushyanta proceeds towards the hermitage. On his way, suddenly his right arm throbs. It was a belief in those times that if the left eye of a lady and right arm of a man throbs, then they may get something which is not really expected. Now Dushyanta, an emperor who has all kinds of luxuries and comforts at his feet in his capital, what can he get in a hermitage? Maybe some roots and tubers? But he talks to himself. Bhavitavyanam dvarani bhavanti sarvatra. That which one is destined to get can be obtained anywhere, anytime, and anyhow. The reason for which I am quoting this dialogue from the script, from the play Shakuntala is, every land has its own beliefs, customs, and philosophy. And these beliefs and philosophy always reflects not only in the literature, but all fine and performing arts that origin over that land. And this statement, Bhavitavyanam dvarani bhavanti sarvatra, is perhaps a fine example of it. Eventually, Dushyanta reaches the hermitage and he finds 3 girls watering the plants. He especially gets attracted towards one girl among them. Needless to say that she has to be Shakuntala, the heroine of the play. But Dushyanta is not aware that she is Shakuntala. He decides to stay back, because if he approaches them, since they are hermitage girls, they might get afraid and prefer to go away from the place. And he wants to know more about that girl in particular. So he hides behind a tree and starts listening to their conversation carefully. Those 3 girls are watering the plants and talking to each other. Shakuntala is perhaps the youngest one and the central character, central figure, and she has 2 friends. One is Anasuya. Asuya is jealousy. And another is Priyam Vada. Priyam Vadati iti Priyam Vada. While they are engaged in that conversation, suddenly a bumblebee starts hovering around the face of Shakuntala. Now this young girl gets disturbed, gets afraid, and she calls her friends for the help. Sakhe, paritrayasva mam anena dushta madhukarena. Now these 2 girls, they know that a bumblebee cannot do much, not harmful. So they just decide to tease their friend, and Anasuya says, why are you calling us for the help? After all, protecting the subjects is the duty of the king. So you should call the king Dushyanta instead. They do not know that Dushyanta is hiding behind a tree. It just, happens coincidentally. But Dushyanta like a clever hero of a movie or a play, considers this as an appropriate opportunity to present himself in front of them and goes ahead and like a hero, he says, Pruthivyam Paurave Shasati Kapidayati Ashramakanyabhyah, who indeed troubles these hermitage girls while Pauravas are ruling over the earth. He belongs to the Puru dynasty, Paurava dynasty. These girls get afraid. Probably they are seeing such a man for the first time. They have seen only sages and ascetics with grown beards and hairs and holding rosaries in their hand. They want to run away from the place. But you know, Anasuya is a bit more mature than Shakuntala and Priyambada. So she has some patience, she shows some courage. She goes ahead and asks him, Sir, do not worry. We were just teasing her. But who are you? Dushyanta was about to reveal his identity, but he realizes that if he tells that he only is the king Dushyanta, then the girls might run away. So he says that I am an officer appointed by the king Dushyanta in order to protect this forest. So I came your shout and I heard your shout and came here. Don't worry. Oh. So you are the officer appointed to protect this forest. Then you must be welcome. Welcome, sir. Thank you. But I would like to know more about this girl. Who's she? She's Shakuntala, the daughter of sage Kanva. Kanva's daughter. But as I know, Kanva is following the vow of Brahmacharya. Then, do not misunderstand her as a real daughter of sage Kanva. She was found by sage Kanva. She was found like an orphan child. Oh, so let me tell you the whole story. She is actually the daughter of a nymph, an apsara by name Urvashi. A Kshatriya sage Vishwamitra fell into love with Urvashi and she was born. But since Urvashi was an apsara, she could not stay on earth. And since Vishwamitra was a Rishi, she could not settle down like a Gruhastha. Because of that, this baby was left alone. Sage Kanva found her in the forest. At that time, she was protected from the scorching heat of sun by some birds by spreading their wings. Sage Kanva brought her to hermitage and named her Shakuntala. This name is also interesting and it has a connection with the canons of Natya Shastra. Just as Natya Shastra talks about how should be the title of the play, it also talks about the names of the characters. It is stated that the names of the characters should also be suggested. So Anasuya is a lady who does not have jealousy, so she is mature. Priyambada is very soft spoken, and Shakuntala, here Shakunta means a bird and La means to protect. Shakuntala means the one who's protected by birds. And that is why sage Kanva named her Shakuntala. Oh, all right. So it means that she is a daughter of a Kshatriya and not a Tapasvini. Yes, sir. She is a daughter of a Kshatriya, not a Tapasvini. Moreover, sage Kanva has even decided that she should get married to a suitable groom. Oh, Dushyanta responds. That's even better. Now we might laugh at this, isn't it? We might have a smile on our face after we hear this reaction from Dushyanta that it is even better. But you know, this response of Dushyanta, it's significant. The reason is it distinguishes Kālidasa's Dushyanta, the hero of the play, from the Dushyanta in Mahabharata. Just remember the behavior of Dushyanta in Mahabharata. He gets attracted, he's just infatuated, and he wants to just spend a night with that girl. He has no other motive in his life. But here, Dushyanta feels happy when he comes to know that she is a Kshatriya girl. So that the attraction that he had towards Shakuntala was not adharma, non-righteous. He feels even happier when he comes to know that she can get married. It means that this is not mere infatuation. He has a thought of marrying that girl in the hermitage. In the meanwhile, because of this discussion about own marriage, Shakuntala wants to leave that place somehow. So she is trying to leave, but Anasuya stops her. Anasuya tells her that you cannot leave. Do not forget that we had fetched 2 pots of water yesterday for you. You have to repay it today. You have to water 2 more plants today. Dushyanta says, This girl already looks tired because of that incident of bumblebee, Brahmara Prasanga. Can she water 2 more plants now? Should I help her? So he comes ahead and says that, let me help her. Instead of this act of watering the plant, can you please keep this ring with you as an exchange? While Dushyanta is removing the ring, Anasuya finds 3 letters on that ring. And these 3 letters are Dushyanta. Surprising. A ring which has the name of Dushyanta over it, which means it is not a mere ring. It can be used as a seal. Okay, in those days. A seal in those days. Stamp. This is, how is this ring of King Dushyanta with you? Dushyanta says, don't worry. This ring was gifted to me by King Dushyanta himself. All right, Anasuya says. Then you must keep it with you because it is precious. Through this small conversation, author Kalidas is introducing an important character in the play, and this character is this ring, which has the name of Dushyanta over it. This ring has a significance from the point of view of the word Abhijnana in the title Abhijnana Shakuntalam, and this ring is going to play a key role in the alteration of the original story. Due to want of time, I am afraid I cannot really talk in detail about it. While this conversation is going on, suddenly we hear a cry from the backstage. It seems people are afraid. Why so? That is because one elephant from the troop of Dushyanta has lost control and he is running helter-skelter. So children and aged people are worried that they may get killed by that elephant. Now, someone should go and control the elephant. Who should go? Obviously, Dushyanta. This is a typical situation in which, Indian ideal men are caught. Kartavya or bhavana. Isn't it? Duty, dharma on one side and emotions on the other side. And needless to state that the hero of the play chooses the first side, that means dharma. So in order to control that elephant, Dushyanta has to depart. He has to leave the place. He is leaving the place. Really, he does not want to leave the place. And Shakuntala is also leaving the place. And in the meanwhile, her pallu, her upper garment, gets entangled to a bush. And at the same time, she is hurt by a thorn, kushak grass. In order to remove that entangled pallu, she just moves back. And while removing that pallu, she also wants to remove that thorn. And in this particular posture, this is suggestive. This is suggestive. The pallu, the upper garment, getting caught, getting entangled into the bushes, and a thorn pricking her foot. Both things are suggestive. She just looks back, and what a coincidence. At the same time, Dushyanta also looks back. Don't you remember a typical frame of a Bollywood movie, a love story? Why only one frame? I would say that almost every episode of Shakuntal we can find in all popular love stories in Bollywood. Such an influence of Kalidas and Sanskrit literature. When we talk about the relevance of Sanskrit dramas, no need to explain the relevance. We can see the evidence. Not only the episodes, but you look at the very theme of the play. We find the same theme in all love stories. What is the theme? The theme is simple. Milna, bichhadna, fir milna. So it is a first meeting, then separation because of some reason. The reasons change along with time. And then reunion. This is the theme. This is the one line of Shakuntal, and we see this in all major popular love stories. So Dushyanta and Shakuntala look at each other. Although the love is not expressed verbally, it is expressed through eyes. And here ends the first act of the play. You know, Kalidas has, through words, created a very charming visual. He says that sometimes when a chariot is, moving over the battlefield, but if the wind is blowing in the wrong direction, in the opposite direction, then the flag over the chariot flatters towards the other side. Likewise, although Dushyanta's body was moving towards this side, his mind was flattering towards Shakuntala. And here ends the first act of the play. How much time do we have now? Okay, so I would just like to introduce one important character of Sanskrit plays. This character meets us in the second act of the play. He is called Vidushaka. Now, we should not understand Vidushaka as a clown of a circus. The word Vidushaka, the term Vidushaka, is explained as Visheshena Dushayati iti Vidushakaha. The one who finds out even minor faults in others' conduct and speech, and expresses them. And he is not even afraid of talking about the hero of the play. But at the same time, he is a very close friend of the hero of the play. This is Vidushaka. The Vidushaka in this play, by name Madhavya, enters the stage. And there is a conversation between Dushyanta and Madhavya, where Dushyanta tells Vidushaka that he has fallen into love with Shakuntala. He says, what? You are an emperor and you have fallen into love with a tribal girl? But what does she think about you? He says, the way in which she looked at me, I think she feels the same. And I quote, Vidushaka says, Krutam toya tapovanam upavanam iti manye. You have converted this tapovana, the penance grove, into a upavana, a garden to roam around with the beloved. This is a wordplay, tapovana and upavana. Okay, so Sanskrit literature is not always, about philosophy and something serious. Okay, it also contains such charming wordplays. Okay, due to lack of time, I cannot proceed with the story ahead, but I would just like to mention that the narration of the story that you heard just now has been written by me. And we perform this play in this form, in the form of a dialogue. I also have an accompanying actress with me. Both of us perform the role of Sutradhara and Nati. We only, convert into Vaikhanasa, and Dushyanta, Dushyanta and Shakuntala, Sage Kanva and Anasuya, as per the need of the scene. And then in this way, we perform the whole play, the 7-act long play, in the duration of 1.5 hours. Of course, we are accompanied by the appropriate lights, the appropriate, but minimal setting and background music. I am mentioning this because I would like to conclude this lecture by raising an important issue for the discussion. The way in which we saw the demonstration with all constraints and limitations, we get an idea of how much efforts the performers used to take and how strictly theorized this art of performance was in those days. But there are some major challenges in bringing these performances, these plays into light today. Challenge one, form of the script. We talked about Sutradhara, Prastavana, Bija, Bindu, Pataka and all. But if the audience is not well versed with these techniques, if the audience does not know that this is the Bija, or if the audience is not aware about the very idea of Bija, it won't be possible to experience and enjoy the play to the fullest. So that is the first challenge. People are not abhirupa bhuishta. People are not abhijana in the sense that they are not familiar with the technique of Natya. Number one. Challenge number two, the language of this place, Sanskrit, is not a popular language like other Indian languages. And there is, even more important challenge than language. People are not familiar with the language of the performance of the play. I would prefer to call it Ranga Bhasha. Ranga Bhasha. Ranga Bhasha means the language in which the performance should be done, not Sanskrit language. The techniques of representation, the symbolization that is involved in the presentation, people are not familiar even with that. Okay, nowadays people do not know that this is Mushti Mudra or this is Mayura Mudra. So unless people know that this is Mushti Mudra or Mayura Mudra, how can they really understand what is being shown on the stage? So, what is the way forward? In a nutshell, just to summarize, I would say that the way forward is a 3A formula. The first A is abridgment of the long scripts. The second A is alteration. Alteration should take place with respect to characters, with respect to the story, and also with respect to the language. Like in the today's demonstration, we saw that I was talking in Sanskrit. I was quoting important Sanskrit statements from the script, but at the same time, I was bilingual. Sometimes the script and the performer needs to be multilingual as well, according to the need of the audience. So Sanskrit plus some other language, alteration means this as well. And the third A is adaptations. We cannot stick to the strict framework laid down in the Natya Shastra today. We have to create adaptations that can be acceptable to the young generation. And we have tried to create such adaptations. We have created the adaptation of this play Abhijnana Shakuntala in the form of narration through Sutradhara and Nati. We have also created the adaptation of the play Mrichakatikam in the form of a Sangeeta Natak in Maharashtra. So the way in which I recited the Nandi and the dialogue between Sutradhara and Nati are the peculiarities of Sangeeta Nataka in Maharashtra. Of course, This Sangeeta Nataka has borrowed everything from the Sanskrit drama. Therefore, I said that Sangeeta Nataka in Maharashtra stands as an example of living tradition of Sanskrit. So Mruchakatika we have adapted in the form of a Sangeet Nataka. There is another play called Pratima, which we have adapted in the form of a Kirtana. And Karnabhara, a play written by Bhasa, we have tried to, make a combination of the classical style of presentation and the style of presentation of a prose drama. Given an opportunity, I would like to present one of those dramas and then get the feedback. But for the time being, I close from my side, just in continuity with the features of a Sanskrit play. As I said, every Sanskrit play begins with a Nandi. Likewise, it ends with a Bharata Vakya, a good wish. So I would like to end this small presentation with a Bharata Vakya. For Bharata Vakya, I have chosen the play Karnabhara written by Bhasa, so that you get idea of another play. And the Bharata Vakya is like this. Sarvatra sampada santu nashantu vipadas sada Raja Raja guno peto bhumi me kam prashastunaha Bhumi me kam prashastunaha Bhumi me kam prashastunaha. Thank you. Thank you.